Did you know? Did you know? There is some fantasy news, and it's gonna flow! Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host, Daniel Green, and today there is, I'm gonna be honest, a little bit of a lighter palette of fantasy news that, don't worry, I'm gonna grab your hand and walk you on through. But first off, we're gonna start with the fact that we've launched yet another movie review over on the second channel, The Discussion. We also just recently did Star Wars, so if you'd like to see me and my best buddy Noah digging into some of the most classic films of all time, go ahead and check that out, link in the description down below. But let's go ahead and jump into our first story of the day because it's Brando Sando related. And quite honestly, he must be stopped. It's gone too far. And that is because Brandon Sanderson officially has entered space. That is right, a comet flying around in the sky is now named after the iconic fantasy author, and it's gone too far. His power grows stronger by the day. Do we not see the danger to all? He's absorbing our writing powers. What can we do? But in actuality, a fan of Sanderson apparently just had the rights to name a comet and decided to toss his favorite author right on there. And it blew up on Reddit, and now Sanderson is aware of the fact that he is indeed spacebound. And I am serious, his power continues to grow. How do you all not see the threat? He's going to consume the world! But moving into a piece of more serious news, we have also had a pre-order launch for a special edition from Subterranean Presses of a Dresden Files story titled The Law. If you would like to get this special edition, it will run you $45 for the signed numbered edition and $300 for the signed lettered edition. Subterranean Press usually knocks it out of the park for me. I consider them to be one of the highest end of the luxury book brand companies, but this one I'm just a bit hesitant on in the concept for the design. Of course, I'll be reviewing it here on the channel once I have it in hand, but let me know what you think, Dresden Files fans, down below. My biggest gripe with the series is, one, it's not being adapted again yet. I really want that to happen. Get it an HBO series or something, my god. But on top of that, it's impossible to get like a complete Dresden hardback set. I've only been able to get some of the newer ones in hardback. The rest are pretty much impossible to find unless I go to editions that I just do not like. And it's tough to have a shelf for Dresden when you love hardbacks, and I don't know why Jim would do this. He's clearly doing it intentionally. But I swear, if one of those luxury book companies decided to do a complete hardback set of Dresden and put a somewhat reasonable tag on it, kind of like Discworld Emporium, they would sell it like crazy, because I know so many Dresden fans who want to get a complete hardback set and just don't know where to get one now. Now, in a last-minute Brandon Sanderson Fantasy News update, we also just got the cover reveal for the US version of The Lost Metal. We already got the UK version, but now we got the US version, or as it some guys called, the US. And as you can see, this cover has 2 guns, a hat, and a cane. That's a really bold choice. A lot of people will go, no, enough is just 2 guns. Some people, if they're bold, would go, okay, 2 guns and a cane, but 2 guns, a cane, and a hat? There's a lot going on in this cover right now, and I just gotta say, I'm very impressed. Now, next we're gonna be getting into some video game news, but what is this? A quick word from today's sponsor. Oh, I didn't see you there. Sorry, I was just practicing my impression of a goldfish. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about Campfire, the longest, most active supporter of the channel in my entire career. Campfire is an absolutely wonderful way to help you lubricate your brain and get the ideas smoldering within put to the page in a fast, concise manner. Because Campfire is a writing software designed to help you actually get a cohesive vision for your world in one easy, convenient place. Whether it's through their map builders, character organizers, relationship maps, so many tools available right at the tip of your fingies to help you get those ideas to the page at a price you choose. This is a small business run by good guys I've met and wholeheartedly support with my chest here on the channel. And I think they'd be a wonderful thing for many of the aspiring writers in my audience to check on out, and you only have to download and pay for the specific components you want to use. That's an interesting, progressive business model. Back to the video. So we've gotten some additional looks at the upcoming Lord of the Rings Gollum game, and I'm going to go on a little itty bitty bit of a rant here, and it's going to focus on the fact that there's a lot of people out there claiming that there's a disservice being done to Tolkien's legacy for a show they haven't even seen yet. Now, granted, I'm not super hot on that show either. I think it's a better chance than not to not live up to the reputation Lord of the Rings has. But in terms of a disservice to the franchise, what has been happening in the video game space for Lord of the Rings for a while has been far more egregious in my opinion. There has been straight up gimmicky, just pull out money from its users' phone apps that have been not super well received, as well as another additional game coming from EA to the phone that I do not believe will live up to the Lord of the Rings title. And now there is finally more stills released for the upcoming Gollum game, which seems to be being pitched as like a Lord of the Rings Middle-earth experience type game. If you're going to do that, maybe make it look good, because these shots look downright terrible by today's standards for a AAA title, especially one that seems to be leaning into the idea of being experiential. Good God, Unreal Engine 5 is rolling out pretty much right now, and this game looks like it should have been released in 2012. Lord of the Rings, in terms of video game highs, has really released some of the most iconic movie or book-based games of all time, but recently it's just been atrocious. And it's not like they're out of ideas. There are so many different types of games you could release, even good mobile games, within Lord of the Rings, but it seems so money grubby oriented, it's really revolting to me. I've been looking pretty deep into this game's latest press releases, and nowhere are they showing Gollum up close. I have looked through promotional image after promotional image, and the only ones I am seeing are from when the game was in way earlier development. It doesn't exactly scream to me that they're confident in the game, that the character you're going to be looking at for most of the game isn't getting center stage for almost any of the promotional material. On top of that, this is a game that feels absolutely absurd in concept. There is so many stories to tell in Middle-earth, so many adventures you could go on. Why are we doing a game where you simply follow Gollum as he just meanders around? This is Tolkien's Middle-earth. It feels like they just had limited rights availability to them, and they just grabbed a concept that seemed like it would make an easy, quick game, so they could make an easy, quick buck. Rant over. Lord of the Rings Gollum. More like Lord of the Rings got him. But in some video game news that, depending on your perspective, could be considered positive or negative, Sony has also confirmed that we are going to be getting a God of War series for Amazon and a Horizon Zero Dawn series for Netflix. There's also something called a Gran Turismo. I don't know what that is, so I'm not going to cover that. I don't like to cover things that I don't know. Sorry, just being, integrally journalist, or maybe lazy. You decide. Now, the God of War series for Amazon is probably one I'm a little more on, because I think, Amazon has produced some really interesting shows and some ones that left something to be desired. But God of War, done exceptionally well, could be absolutely fantastic. The conversation I'm more interested in having, though, is actually when it comes to Horizon Zero Dawn, because I've played the first game and I dabbled in the second a little, and I found them to be just fine. There's a type of game that's been done to death, and I didn't think they did anything revolutionary for that genre of gaming, but I do believe it is a missed medium franchise like we've talked about here before on the channel, and I would actually rather see that world presented to me in a show or movie. To me, that concept is more attractive as just a well-formatted, structured story, rather than a game that felt like it was really struggling to find a balance between dialogue and writing and voice acting in the world that had so much more to offer. So I'm actually more excited to see what Netflix is going to be doing with that for Sony. God of War, I need to see a lot more on before I have strong opinions. It's too early to tell, though Horizon Zero Dawn just has me more out the gate going like, oh, that could be a step in the right direction for that franchise. God of War's like already peaked though, right? So it's more like, that could be an interesting addition to the franchise. Or it could be bad, but there's no way it's gonna be better than the games. And then finally, in public domain news, one of the most iconic names in children's fantasy has entered the public domain, and we're seeing the result of that in an upcoming movie titled Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. This is a horror retelling of the famous legends of Winnie the Pooh, and because it's in public domain, they're allowed to do what they please with the character, and we are going to be seeing this little child teddy bear entering the horror icon foray. Could he become rebranded, reknown first and foremost as a horror icon? Only time will tell. Stranger things have happened to fictional characters. People have their reputations changed once they enter public domain, and things can be twisted and turned. Think of what Disney did to the Brothers Grimm tales, which used to be far darker, but are often looked on now as just these extraordinarily sanitized and clean children's stories. Could that trend now be reversed? Wholesome children's characters enter public domain, and the people who grew up with them have fascinating ideas to twist and turn them and bring them more to that horrific sense. I am so down for it, especially Disney. You can't avoid it forever once Mickey enters the public domain. Give me a Mickey Mouse horror movie. I am going to love and watch the shit out of it. This will probably be awful, and it's most likely just intentionally leaning into the gimmicky nature to get eyes and attention. But you know what? It worked, because it certainly got my eyes and attention, and I'm willing to just say kudos. I will watch this one night when I'm not sober with some friends. Now, in a piece of positive live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender over at Netflix news, which I have not been able to say too much, and I'm happy to finally be able to do so, the show has already gotten apparently a quote-unquote nod from the Guinness Book of World Records for the way they're shooting the show. And this actually just goes into the technology we saw with shows like The Mandalorian, where there are these gargantuan screens where the actors are able to actually see the special effects in real time. And I think we saw with The Mandalorian, which it wasn't my favorite show, but visually had some certainly fascinating angles to it. This technology works, and it doesn't have to polish itself a whole lot more, that I think really will do away with some of that disconnect you often get from green screen stuff where the actors actually don't know what's there. And it's interesting to hear that the Avatar: The Last Airbender show is utilizing this tech, because it has a type of fantasy world that I think could greatly benefit from it. As a, mild Avatar: The Last Airbender fan, I'm taking this as at least the show has the potential to look quite interesting, and that's a positive I'll take. But the specifics for this world record that is broken is due to the size of that stage they are using, and the details are: the production set measures 22,000 square feet at 80 feet by 27 feet. The stage is lined with 2,500 LED wall panels, as well as 7,600 LED ceiling tiles. That is a lot of stuff. I imagine is very impressive. I don't really know beyond just that speed. Okay, it says it's impressive, so I bet it's impressive. This is honesty news. I'm not here to bullshit you. And I do not often cover Marvel news, but hey, it's also Taika Waititi news, and I love that man, so it's fair to say I'm going to cover Thor: Love and Thunder had its trailer dropped, as well as some promotional photos, and it looks pretty exceptional. It's fun to see the Marvel fanbase really energized and kind of universally just agreeing that yes, Taika Waititi is a total breath of fresh air for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and seeing him continue to the helm the character of Thor is fantastic. But aside from the fact that we got these photos that just... Those are the most beautiful women on the planet. Wow, I discovered I like a thing. The other thing I'm going to talk about with this is saying that, hey, What We Do in the Shadows Season 4 is about to drop, and if you haven't watched Seasons 1 through 3, they're on Hulu, and I highly, highly recommend them. Sneak show recommendation, next news. Now, as I have talked about here before on the channel, I am severely dyslexic, and what that results in is every single time there is any kind of inkling of news of people coming out with tech that apparently makes people with dyslexia read easier or anything along those lines, it gets sent to me and sent to me and sent to me. So we're going to cover the fact that apparently there is a new thing called bionic reading. And what this essentially does is kind of similar to the dyslexic font that has blown up on the internet several times. I'm sure people will forget about it again, and then it'll blow up yet again and get sent to me 1,000 more times. But what exactly this does is it chunks out the words so that your brain can process them in a faster manner, and it also aids in the comprehension of the reading. This is not anything that's entirely new to me. Actually, when I was going through my dyslexic special education when I was a child, we did something very similar to this called chunking, where you force your brain to look at either just one word at a time or parts of words, and it's how I helped train my brain to read faster when I was really struggling when I was young. But it is cool to see stuff like this get more recognition, and I'm never that mad because it raises awareness to the fact that yes, a very high percentage of people have some form of reading disability, and it can make reading as a whole very challenging for them, especially in front of others. So please just always keep that in mind if you see someone who is nervously reading in front of people, and don't judge too harshly. It really can be tough for some, and it's not their fault. Though I also can testify to the fact that this does actually work. It's not some internet gimmick, and in my opinion is actually more effective than the dyslexic font you see constantly thrown around, which I think has some benefit. This, though, is actually something I've been using for quite some time and allows me to read significantly faster than I would otherwise. Give this a go and see if you can read those samples at a faster rate once you actually have the effect turned on that they have for a sample on their website. I do think calling it bionic reading, it's chunking. You're just chunking the words. I've been doing that since I was like 11, all right? That's not anything too special. But this has been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and check out the second channel, The Discussion, where we just talked about Some Like It Hot and Star Wars, as well as Psycho and many other of the 100 quote-unquote greatest films, Noah and I will decide that, in American history. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. I got merch, I got books, and have a good one, y'all. Bye! And of course, I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high-tier Patreons: Driving Drunk, Hitsby, Tom White, Drinath, Wrathful McDongalong Weenus III. Thank you so much.